Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for yet another Chelsea transfer news special, or in today's case, a Chelsea manager's first interview special, because that's probably what we're going to be talking about most today. And even more baffling, we have 4 people all with a camera on screen today. Isn't that incredible? That doesn't happen very often. Shout out to Pys. I know he doesn't turn his camera on, but we will show his Twitter plenty anyway. So, you know, it's almost like he's here. But yeah, Pochettino has given his first interview at Chelsea today. First thing I want to say, the training gear this season is an absolute thing of beauty. Now, we don't know what the kit is going to look like exactly. We don't know what sponsor is going to be on it. But the training gear is absolutely wonderful. So at least some good things, I guess. So, you know, that is a positive. Joe, you know what? I'll start with you. First of all, thank you for being back on. Appreciate it very much. You said you had a good time last time, so I thought, got to bring you back. Poch's first interview. What were your first impressions? Did you think he came across well? Did you think he did well? Also, if you want to look back to and compare it to maybe Graham Potter's first interview, although I'll be honest, I can't really remember. So, you know, any comparison that I do make, kind of on the fly. But, you know, what are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I thought he came across really, really well. He seems to carry himself with a bit of a swagger, don't he? And a lot of the things that he said in the interview, which I think we're going to be getting to, you know, I think a lot of us will probably agree with needed to be changed. And yeah, I thought it was a really good first interview. In fair, I thought that, you know, most of the things he said made sense, and it's just nice to see a manager with a bit about him, if you know what I mean. He just seemed to look the part, you know. You know, the picture you're showing there, arms crossed, you know, like on the man sort of thing. So, yeah, I thought he came across well. And, you know, I'm optimistic after listening to the interview, in my opinion.
Yeah, although, I mean, I know a lot of people didn't necessarily agree with that. I didn't hate Potter's first interview. So I was also rather optimistic after that. Maybe that's just me, new manager. I'm a back this until I see signs that I shouldn't, right? Rather than going into it with a pessimistic mindset. Ollie, first of all, thank you for being back on. Appreciate it very much, mate. Similar question to you, because that's what we're mostly going to be talking about today, isn't it? Pochettino's first interview. I assume you watched it. We're going to watch it again together. Also, the second part, which none of us have seen yet, as it just come out before we went live. Did you agree with Joe? Did he come across well? Is there things that you would have liked him to say that he didn't say, or what did you make of it in general?
Well, first of all, just thanks for having me on again. I know we've been trying to get me back on the show for a while. It's scheduling hasn't quite lined up, but it's good to be back. On Poch's interview, yeah, I thought he came across well. I thought he came across as confident, which is important. I'm also cognizant of the fact that it is sort of just an interview. You know, I thought a lot of the content of what he said was good. You know, saying things like Chelsea, you know, is one of the greatest clubs in the world, things like that. Things you're supposed to say. You know, you're saying everything you're supposed to say, which, you know, is appreciated. You know, it's not, and like Joe says, it's nice to have a manager who seems to have a little bit about him in terms of, you know, a bit of an attitude. You know, not necessarily as much as, say, like a Mourinho, but definitely more than the likes of a Graham Potter. So, yeah, happy with the interview overall, but also kind of understand that talk is cheap, and we'll see the better talking on the pitch.
There you go. I couldn't really have said it much better myself. Charlie, your thoughts? Like Ollie mentioned, I think that's an important point to make. But like even what Joe touched on, I like the pose as well. But if we're being honest, the photographer probably told him how to pose, right? It's like with the interview, the interviewer asks the questions to try at least help the manager come across well. But I still think that he did manage to come across well. The only thing that I mentioned after, maybe that's a bit harsh of me, but, you know, English is also my second language, so I feel like I'm in a position to say this. I thought his English was better. The dude, how long did he live in England for? Come on, someone give it an English teacher. How can he say exciting instead of excited every time? My God. No, I'm messing around. But in general, good impression on your side as well, mate. I mean, it's interesting because it feels like in the online community, at least from the creators' point of view, most people seem to be on board with it. But I still know for a fact that there's still a few people out there, maybe some super diehard Chelsea fans, maybe some people that have, I don't know, some personal extra vendettas against Spurs or whatever, that are still not quite on board with the whole thing. Do you think he will get those people back on board with that interview, or do you think it will take them a bit longer?
Ultimately, it might take them a bit longer, but the easiest way for him to win any doubters on side is just by winning. Simple as that. If you start winning, people don't moan about anything, regardless of their thoughts. But I mean, in terms of his interview, look, as far as like sort of first impressions go, with speaking to the fans and obviously the wider world. Like, I don't think he could have done much better. Pretty much ticked all the boxes, talking about things that, you know, we've known that have needed to change for a while, talking about creating a winning culture, making Cobham feel like a place of home rather than a place of work, all these sort of things. And I think you can tell with the experience that he's had at PSG as well, that he gets what it means to manage a big club. He understands what's expected of him. And he's also aware of kind of the history of the club as well. The fact that we have been very successful despite what last season has said, talking about the style of play, talking about how he just wants to, get the fans on side, make them happy. It can't just be the fans that are cheering and all that sort of thing. So I think he's addressed some important issues. I think what he said has come across well to the fans, and it's a breath of fresh air to see him finally here. And it's great to see him speak. No disrespect to Graham Potter, but like, it's kind of chalk and cheese, the contrast of how the two kind of communicated in the early exchanges. But ultimately, as Ollie said, talk's great, but you're not going to be judged on what you say in your interviews. You're going to be judged on what you do on the football pitch. So whilst this is all well and good, and it's great to hear, and it gets you excited, and it's something to look forward to, ultimately, he needs to deliver on the pitch. It's all very well saying the right things, but you have to deliver on the pitch. But certainly, yeah, I really enjoyed what you had to say. Come across very well, and look, it's certainly something to be excited for.
Absolutely. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure if every one of you would have seen it already. So let's just bring it up. I hope this is actually the full bit, and now will include the second part of the interview, because this is now 15 minutes long. The first bit was just under 10. The second bit is just under 5. And there's some extra bits in here. So I hope this works how I plan it. Should be on good quality. You guys let me know whether you can hear everything. But I think this should work out quite well. And then we will just pause it at a few points throughout the video and just talk about certain things the Poch may have said.
No?
It's chilly in London, is it?
Wait till we go back.
Hey,
how are you? Lovely to see you. Welcome.
How are you?
The aura.
To see you. Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. We can be friends, no problem.
Always.
We are in the same ship.
This is it. You can trust me.
No worries.
Thanks for watching. Do you need a drink or anything?
No, it's
Sure. Do you want to quickly go through questions with you?
no, it's okay. Surprise
Are you
me.
sure?
Just quickly, does anyone know what house this is? They're in here. Like, where's this?
Mate, they filmed. Do you know what, Jenny, of that thing they did last season, the clubhouse?
Yeah.
Mate, I swear they filmed that. I think they filmed that in that room as well. I don't know what it is, mate, but it's obviously some posh looking room at the training ground.
It's Cobham's
but
garden
is it at
shed.
Cobham? Does anyone know? I assume so.
Yeah, it is at Cobham. Yeah.
It's quite fancy, though, isn't it?
Also, just real quick, just on the
Go on.
literally like the first thing he said there, he went, "Oh, do you want me to tell you what the questions are?" He went, "Nah, it's fine." Like, confidence. He's ready. Like, it's nice to see.
Exactly. Ready for anything, which is good. At the same time, we don't know if not every manager would have said no. I mean, maybe Lampard would have said no as well. We know how well good Frank is at talking. Just the managing part is the problem. But
Some managers have confidence for the wrong reasons.
Much better.
in the chat, people, ladies and gentlemen, please let me know if the
Mauricio,
sound
first
is
of all,
like
a very
right level
warm
or
welcome to Chelsea. It's great to see you. Firstly, what made you and your team so attracted to the project here at the club?
Thank you very much. For me, it's a pleasure and an honor to be now involved with Chelsea Football Club. I think we are so exciting, and I know very well Chelsea is one of the greatest clubs in the world. And of course, it was easy for us to take the decision to move to here. I think we are really excited. We are so happy that at least today we can start here in Cobham and the training ground, knowing the people, the staff, meeting the staff, and I think it's exciting now for us. And of course, what we want is to give or to bring the happiness again to this great football club, working hard, playing in the way that the fans can enjoy football. And
see, that's the first thing I want to stop it on. Obviously, and you can see the next thing on the captions already. The history of Chelsea is to win, but also the fact that he emphasizes that the fans need to enjoy the football. Now, I will say one thing: Potter, I feel like, did also say that a few times. So there's obviously a bit of a, I don't really know, like kind of Ollie touched on. what's an interview and what's the reality doesn't necessarily have to end up being the same. But I don't know. I feel like with him, I'm more likely to believe that. Obviously, we will get further into the interview as he touches on emotion and stuff as well. But Ollie, do you agree that that is one of the most important things, to play a way that gets the fans on board? Because sure, I mean, even at Chelsea, to be honest, we've had arguably our most successful times. We've had maybe being a little bit less exciting, but football has kind of changed, and we've also gone away from having a squad that's kind of ready for that. So I guess it does make a difference playing in a way that works with the fans, right? Because when you have the fans on board and backing you, you're then more likely to also play well and succeed. So it's kind of, you don't have to appease the fans, but if you do, it's going to give you a boost. So it works out positively that way. Wouldn't you agree?
I'm personally a bit more of a pragmatist. I think, like, you've got to set the team up in a way that is going to be successful first. I think before you consider anything else, you've got to make sure that you're going to be winning games. And if that means boring, then that means boring. Because if the alternative is losing in an exciting way, that's not what we're here for at Chelsea. So yeah, absolutely important to hopefully be playing in a style that it appeases the fans. And I think we will, on the basis just of the fact that we've got quite exciting players and on, Poch's reputation and the way he plays. But it wouldn't be my priority personally.
There you go. Joe, how do you see that one? Does it matter how the team plays, or is it all about winning?
It's all about winning, isn't it? No, I wanted Mourinho back, so that very much at a certain point. So that shows, like, I just wanted to, I don't care how we win, as long as we win. Like, that was one thing that Tuchel, when he come in, he said, we'll make a team that no one wants to play against, and that's how we'll win. It's because, that's what matters, isn't it? Say Pochettino wins all his games, he stays in the job. As soon as he starts losing them, no matter how we're playing, he's going to go, isn't he? It's irrelevant, really. It's all about results. Football is a results-based game at the end of the day, and I just don't think how you get to the goal line matters. It's sort of about getting there and winning, isn't it? So I don't care how we play. We could park the bus all day long. If we win the league or the treble or whatever it is, for me, it's irrelevant how we get there.
That I agree with. But if you're asking me, let's come fourth and let's do it by drawing 0-0 and winning 1-0 every now and again, or win 3-2 and sometimes lose 2-1, I'd rather that way. If the conclusion is fourth, when it's about winning, I completely agree, because that's my only point where I'm like, we're at a position where we're not just going to go and win the league next season. I think we're all aware of that. Now, to be fair, we all said that in 2015 or 2016, and then Conte turned up and we still won the league. So, miracles do happen, I suppose. But, let's like it now. Pepper's been a City for a hot minute now. So,
but your team needs to know how to do that as well, don't they? Your team needs to, you could play well, but they need to, when they have to go into the trenches, they have to go into the trenches, and that, that's what that's where I look at it, is that you could play well and you can look good, but when you need to get nitty gritty, can you get nitty gritty?
Yeah. I 1,000,000% agree with that. 100%.
And that's an exciting thing actually about Poch, is he does set his teams up in that way. Like his teams, like, historically have been kind of full of like shithousery, they're like a team like full of bastards basically. And I think you kind of need that when the going gets tough. You need people who are going to dig in and fight back. Because I think that's something we really haven't seen much at Chelsea recently. It seemed, especially last season, is that every time something went against us, we'd kind of just roll over. And hopefully now we're going to create a culture around, sort of being resilient instead.
Absolutely. Before I get to Charlie and ask him the same question, the only thing I was going to say is, as we're kind of in I hate the word process, but in a process to get back to winning. And when I say winning, that means on the one hand, winning games, but on the other hand, winning trophies, winning leagues, whatever else. There is going to be a period where we're not going to win every game. So, and in that period, I do think it matters how just think back to Potter or even on the Lampard, losing a game, drawing a game, and being utterly dreadful, the fans certainly take on the chin a lot less than playing really well or being a bit unlucky and then losing a game. That's I do think that makes a difference. I know you said, Joe, all that matters is winning, but of course, in the grand scheme of things. But if you look at an individual game and you're just awful, just do nothing, like under Conte away at City, for example, you just don't even try. That is most certainly, to me, at least, and I think to some others as well, worse than going for it and then somehow it doesn't quite work out. How do you see that one, Charlie? Like, is it as simple as only winning matters, or is there a bit more to it in your mind?
For me, ultimately, it is always about winning. Of course, if you can win and play well at the same time, great. But ultimately, every week we want to go and we want to see our team win football matches, and we don't care how we win them. We just want to take the 3 points, so we want to take the trophy home, whatever it might be. So of course, yes, if you can win playing well, that's even better. But the aim of the game is to win. Now, of course, I get your point when you say obviously that's what it is when you're winning trophies. And if we're just looking to come top 5 next season to get back in the Champions League, then would you rather do that with some style? Ultimately, the result's the same. Like we either get back in the Champions League, like not playing that great, or we do it and we play slightly more pleasingly on the eye. The result's still the same. So for me, ultimately, yes, it would be nice if you could, play with a bit of swagger, play with a bit of style, and get the results. But realistically, the outcome's the same. All you need to do is just get those results for me. So I'm more than happy after watching us lose so many times last season. If we play stinkfest, shit football and win 1-0 most weeks, I couldn't care less. Just want to win.
Yeah, I hear that. It's like, but when you always just play bad, even if you win, then none of your players are getting better. And that's what we've done for the last 10 years. That's why we constantly sign young players who are talented. And then 5 years later, they're still equally as bad or good, sometimes worse than when we signed them. So, we are all about these attacking players. Then if we just park the bus all the time, it's not going to, they're not going to get better, are they? But there you go. Let's hear what's
Books don't ever say asterisk. We had 80% possession, does it? At the end of the day,
no.
What's remembered is the victory in it.
But possession doesn't also equal pretty football. Do you know what I mean? As we've learned.
That was just an example.
No, I hear you absolutely.
Football, and then the history of Chelsea's win, but it's important also in the way that we are going to build that victories. And of course, really exciting, so happy and very grateful with all the people. Of course, start with Todd, with Dad, with Jose, with, of course, all the people after that really welcome us today and a few days ago when we arrived for the first time here in Kovan.
You mentioned the history. How important is that, and also the culture of the club for you?
Yes, I think it's important. I think it's the culture of win. I think in the last 10, 12, 15 years, I think Chelsea is the greatest team in England.
Do you hear that, Tottenham? Imagine you're a Tottenham fan. And he was like your legendary manager for God knows how long, takes you to Champions League final, and it comes to Chelsea, and in the first 2 minutes of an interview, he says, Chelsea's the greatest team in England. You got to be absolutely fuming as a Spurs fan.
It's got a sting.
One of the best things about the Poch appointment to me is how much it has to piss off Spurs fans. Like, as much as I'm like, really have to get Spurs legend as a manager, sure. But because he pisses them off, it's still funny. So,
because it's arguably more proper Chelsea if he does win something now with Chelsea.
Yeah.
When he couldn't with Spurs.
Exactly. It's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of people have talked about, but Jose and Conte, they went to Spurs after. Is it different when you go to Spurs after us compared to coming to us, even though you have been at Spurs before? Is that the same in your mind, Charlie, or is it different? Like,
I think it's different. Once you've kind of been at Chelsea and you've won stuff, going to Spurs is always kind of it's going to be a step down for those managers. Like you've already done what your Chelsea legacy is already like cemented in terms of what you've done. So for me, Poch coming to Chelsea from Spurs, well, it's not even from Spurs. It's not even direct from Spurs. It's like obviously after PSG and whatnot. He hasn't been at Spurs for a number of years now, but I think it's better for us because it means that if you're going from Spurs to Chelsea, there's a far higher chance you're going to win stuff at Chelsea rather than the other way around, like we saw with Jose and Conte. So it's gonna work out a lot better for us and a lot worse for Spurs fans if he does win stuff, because obviously he couldn't win stuff there and he comes and wins stuff here, then that's kind of another one up for us. So I think it's worse for Spurs fans like this way round or however you want to phrase it.
Yeah, no, I do agree. I don't want to get everybody's thoughts on and every time I pause, because otherwise we're going to be here for 3 hours. I'm just going to keep going. But
we know very well. I think I know very well the Premier League. I know very well what means Chelsea, the culture of Chelsea. I think our fans, they are so excited also to be in the road of trying to win and of course for us make to feel really exciting about to work with a very young team in a different approach, of course, than in the past. But I think we need to all understand that we need to work really hard, but in the same time, create a very good atmosphere on the training ground to build the successful for the team in the next few years.
It's a really interesting point because you
Do
mentioned
you reckon
the
that's
age of the team. We've seen the
Go on.
No, just on that bit, I think either when I watched it earlier or that bit there, he mentions for the next few seasons going along. I don't know if it's that one. Do you think that's his first slight little hint that this is going to be longer than just like next season? I don't know if it was. Am I reading too much into it? But there's a part of it where he says,
I mean, I'm sure he
over the
so,
next few
so did Potter.
seasons.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
Potter
no, I
said the
thought it
same,
was-
to be fair.
Yeah, I don't know if he was just trying to like drop the first hint where this is not going to be just a quick fix. It's going to be a progression.
Yeah, exactly. Joe, your connection was slightly bugging there. I think you're now slightly delayed. Just do you want to quickly leave and then join the link again? Because then we're going to be on the same thing again.
Problem.
Oh, good. So I would just keep playing that. Joe would just join us again. But I do think it makes an interesting point. But it's one of those, like you touched on earlier, isn't it, Oli? The phrasing of, I'm sure in his mind he wants to stay long. Did we ever get told how long of a contract he signed? Is it 3+1 or was it 2+1? Did he sign?
I'm not sure, actually.
I feel like they didn't mention it anywhere today. But yeah, I mean, obviously, realistically, if he wants to get back to winning, it's not going to be this season anyway. So I hope he has more plans than for 1 year anyway.
We're winning it all this year, mate.
The last 12 months, and
I mean, yeah, but we also have to be a bit realistic, no?
I love this squad. Changed a lot, haven't we, over the last 12 months, and it continues to do so. How big an opportunity does that give you and your coaching team?
No, I think this is really exciting for us because I think we love the good players. We love the player with the capacity and the talent, but also we want people that want to be with us. I want to be with this club and be really open to help the club to achieve what we want. And from the beginning, the owner were very, and the sporting director also, they were very clear about the project. We were very excited also to join them in this project. Only we are here to try to help the club and the fans. That on the end is the most important also thing in football, for them to be happy, to feel very proud about us in the way that we are going to approach the games. And of course, the players need to know that. And of course, always is up and downs in the history of football. But I think Chelsea is a club that is impossible, to have this up and down. We need to be sure that we are going to bring the thing that the club need for be in the top, because the history of the club is to be in the top.
You mentioned.
Actually, Mauricio, I'll have you know, it's not impossible for this club to have ups and downs. We've quite literally experienced it for many years. But what would you make of that? Especially when he said a second ago that it's important to have players here or people here that want to be here. Obviously, we've seen a lot of outgoings already this summer. How do you value that? Because I always think this is a bit of an easy thing to say, because whether someone wants to be here or doesn't want to be here, that is not a constant thing. Like, that can change, If you play all the time, most players are going to be happy being here. If you don't play regularly, you're not going to be as happy being here. So this whole idea of we only want players that want to be here, if that's your idea, we're never going to have enough squad depth. Because at certain periods in the year, there's someone going to be a bit unhappy. Even though, of course, I like the general idea. But, I mean, Charlie, what do you make of that? Obviously, you don't want players here that just refuse to want to be here. Absolutely, like your Lukaku's. You don't want that. But someone that's like, oh, yeah, am I going to play next season? People obviously trying to put words into Levi Colwell's mouth because he wants to talk to Pochettino before signing a new contract. To me, that's not wanting to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think obviously, we've known for a long time now that there's too many players here that don't want to be here. And that's not conducive to producing good results on the pitch, to creating a good environment to be at. If you're turning up to train at Cobham and you know that fucking half the lads don't even want to be there, it's not great, is it? And when you're stepping out on the pitch and if half the team don't want to be there, are they really giving it their all? It's a really bad position to be in. So you actually do have to, which is why I'm so glad this clear out's taken place, because ultimately you do have to draw a line at It doesn't matter how good you are, what you've done at your career. If you do not want to be at this football club, there's the door, go play somewhere else, because we only want people that be here. And I'd actually rather have slightly less talented players at the club that 100% want to be here and will give their all, rather than players that might be more gifted and more talented, but aren't really that asked about being here. You know, you've got to have you've got to have guys that want to be here. That is the most important thing. If you can get a whole squad of players, or virtually the whole squad of players, 24, 25 names that want to be at this football club, that is a massive, massive plus, because then they're all buying into it. And then, you know, the atmosphere around the place is much better. I mean, it must be pretty tough to, and that's where I feel a little bit sorry for Potter, a little bit sorry for Lampard to a certain extent, is that you've walked into a situation where 3/4 of the squad, or a large chunk of the squad, don't even want to be at the club. That puts you in a really difficult working position, particularly as an inexperienced manager. Even as an experienced manager, that's difficult. So for me, yeah, that's the most important thing is for us to get rid of the players that don't want to be here and start next season from a base where we've got the squad where the vast majority want to play for the football club. I do get your point, though, that people's situations change where they might not want to be here, but if they find out they're part of the plans and they're playing more, then they might change their minds. But ultimately, I think you can tell who does and doesn't want to be at the football club. And the most important thing is creating that culture, creating that environment where, you know, success can thrive, because success is not going to thrive in an environment when half the fucking people don't want to be there.
Yeah, no, very well said. Very well said.
The culture, and also you touched on the winning mentality there. With that in mind, what are your expectations of the players whilst they're here at the training ground?
No, I think the expectation is to be open, to let us to manage, for us to, first of all, to create a platform for them to feel very comfortable here on the training ground. They need to have the space. They need to feel important also. Our expertise to give Chelsea the best tool for the player to be successful, to improve individual and collective way. And I think I think we have the experience, and I think all together we can create a fantastic journey. And on the end, that is what we want, is to be all together, is to work together, is to be part of this football club. And of course, if we are all together, we are going to be really, really strong, because we have an unbelievable squad. For sure, we are going to bring players with commitment to that wanted to be part also. And of course, with the fans and everyone, I think we can find again the way to be successful.
You've spoken about the...
Ollie, I'll go to you and I'll ask Joe about this as well. Do you agree with Poch when he says we have an unbelievable squad as of right now? Or will we have an unbelievable squad by the end of the window? Because right now we don't even have a midfield.
It's a good question for sure. I think he's sort of speaking a little bit in terms of now and in the future as well. You know, I think it's going to be the case that he's, you know, like he's excited to work with a lot of exciting young players, and that's something that, you know, we know it's kind of his remit from his time at Spurs and Southampton. So I think, you know, he's excited to do that, and so he's naturally going to say that the squad is very talented. And plus, at the same time, we know the squad is talented, and I think we can all agree that last season is not a reflection on the talent of the squad. So, you know, given that, I think, I think you could say it is at least valid for him to say that for sure. Yeah. I also wanted to
even if it's not true, give the players some confidence. Sure, I mean, tell them they're unbelievable.
Well, exactly. You know, and it goes back to what he was saying about making the players feel at home, and that was something he did really well at Spurs. Actually, is he made the players feel like home. He made the training ground feel like home as well for the players. You know, I know it sounds silly, but even something like, I think they built like a barbecue pit or something at Spurs' training ground, and that's where all the players and stuff hung out after training and things like that. And, you know, like, and it's the sort of thing that engenders a really good working relationship amongst people. You know, like in any company, in any working scenario, you know, if you have those kind of spaces for people to work and, you know, people to interact with each other outside of working environment, you know, I think it's going to make the relationships better, and then it's going to make working together easier as a result.
I agree. Joe, do you agree with Poch when he says we have an unbelievable squad, or is that more positive talk rather than reality in your mind?
I think unbelievable in terms of talent, maybe, you know, that, you know, we still got a very young one, and I think potentially could be an unbelievable one. I think, you know, there's definitely some positions at the moment he's on it. That the midfield's been gutted. You know, like I think Talent-wise, yeah, unbelievable. I'd probably say there's quite a lot of talented players there and potentially could be good, but we still need a few more players before I would say it's, a title-winning team for say or whatnot. But yeah, I think he has to say it really, don't he, in many ways. But yeah,
true.
There are definitely talent there.
Yeah, and also, I guess we don't know if he was now City manager, what adjective he'd use to describe that squad, I suppose. So, maybe he does find superlatives to unbelievable, I guess. But yeah, let's keep going. We have still plenty to go. So maybe I shouldn't pause it quite this often.
The training ground, early days, but what are your first impressions of Cobham?
No, I think it's fantastic. I think it's a really nice training ground. But the most important is players and staff need to feel that is our home. It's not only a place to come and to work. It's to come here and feel like home. And that is our responsibility also to give some guides to create this feeling. And of course, we are fully committed into try to create a big atmosphere where people can feel really happy to work. And of course, always I believe in that together we can achieve everything, and you can put limit. And of course, we are going to try to fight with this to try to be all together and taking decision to build a fantastic journey together.
You mentioned there, Mauricio, the trip to the United States. How important is a good, solid pre-season? How much will you benefit from that time together?
Yes, it's different objective in the pre-season. Need to arrive in the Premier League and in all the competition that we are going to be involved. Now we need to provide the player the best tool for them to grow up and feel better and start in perfect condition to start the pre-season. Of course, still it's not close the squad, but I think the club is doing a fantastic job. It's working so hard to try to finish the squad, to have the squad and the player as soon as possible to start to work with us. And for sure, after all together, we are going to be in a perfection situation to start to work and develop in the way that we want to apply in the pitch.
Charlie, what does a perfect pre-season look like in your mind? I don't want you to go into too much detail, but obviously he speaks about, perfect conditions and everything else. What does that look like? Because is that about games? Is that about training? How do you split up game time? Because a lot of fans at the moment, obviously, every time we're in a bit of a transition period, every time we get a new manager, everyone's like, always pre-season. And pre-season is hugely important. And now, especially that we have a summer without an international tournament, that makes it a bit easier. A men's international tournament, I should say. But how does that look? Like, how does pre-season have to go for you to be happy with it? Like, play 11 for 45, a completely different 11 in the next 45? Do you already want him to focus on a group of 15 or whatever? Like, what does perfect look like in your mind? Because that's what everyone always talks about. We need to have a good preseason, but I feel like everyone's opinions on what that looks like is different.
I think firstly, a good preseason is number one for me. Get these players fit. You could tell from the get-go last season we were not fit. So for me, the most important thing from the off, get these guys fit. Once we're fit, then from there, for me, I think a pre-season looks like, I think one is getting all the players minutes. Okay, so I think the first couple of games on the tour, how many games on the tour? I think maybe 5. First couple of games on the tour, like maybe do an 11 one half and 11 another half. Once you've had a couple of games to assess things, then you might start to narrow it down. Players that are going to be more part of the plans, maybe they'll get 60 minutes in the third game or something along those lines. I think it's important to get fit, get the players, have an idea. First few games will be 11, probably be an 11 per half, and then you narrow that down. And then it's about working on patterns on play, working on link-ups between certain players, a few tactical ideas here and there. And I think that would probably, for me, represent a good pre-season. If we come back fit, we come back with an idea of what the starting 11 is going to be. Everyone's got good minutes under their belts. People have kind of impressed. You can see sort of a start of an identity starting to form. I think those things for me would constitute a good pre-season. And I say normally in pre-season results don't matter, but I think for us, given how bad pre-season was last year and given how terrible this season was, I actually think for me this year, the results in pre-season are going to be important as well. We do need a
Especially
bit
the
of
last
confidence
few
too.
games. Maybe the first one or two is less important, but the last few before you go into competitive games, I think the results do matter.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, mate, in summary, that's for me what I would say would constitute a good pre-season.
Yeah, no, and I actually agree with you. And it's also very interesting. Jesus Perez, one of the assistants of Poch, I'm not going to defeat this guy essentially, and has apparently, according to Matt Law, spent the last month studying and analysing data on Chelsea's players. He will have found that numbers indicate Chelsea are in no condition. Okay, so he will have found. So this is just Matt Law's opinion. Fair enough then. That numbers indicate Chelsea are in no condition to run before they can walk, and in the first 2 weeks the focus is likely. Okay, so this is purely a Matt Law opinion. I only literally read the start of it. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Let's open this during the stream. Okay, so here's Matt Law's opinion. That we need to build up strength over running, whatever that even means. Does that mean building up strength by running or instead of running? How might we do both, mate? But yeah, no, Ollie, I assume you're on the same boat. Fitness is one of the foundations, in my opinion. And I don't understand why I'm seemingly also not Tuchel so much. Obviously, he wasn't happy with preseason as it was anyway, but it didn't really feel like how the team was for the entirety of the season, that there was too much emphasis put on fitness. And I never understand any manager that doesn't see it that way. And I'm not saying you need to do laps and laps and laps off a football pitch. That's not what fitness means. You can gain your fitness with the ball at your feet. That's arguably better. But fitness is the base of everything. And that's one of the things I'm really glad about, that we got Poch rather than potentially some other players and some other managers, because he will put a lot of emphasis on that. And, especially when the going gets a little bit tougher, the fitter you are, the more likely you are to drag yourself out of that, in my opinion. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you can you have the ability when you're fitter to be able to run harder, to get that, to push that little bit more, that can really make a difference. If you're 5-10% fitter, that makes a massive difference at the top end of elite sport for sure. So getting fit is really important. We've had a stupid amount of injuries. We've been totally unfit last season, arguably 2 seasons. It's been absolutely dire, obviously, and it's, to be honest, been a bit of an embarrassment in the way that the club has been run. Because no elite club should have the amount of injuries and fitness issues that we've had. Effectively, money is no object, so that shouldn't be a problem. It's nice that Pochettino is going to be focusing on fitness, and we all know he's kind of from the Bielsa school of management, so fitness is a prerequisite, and that's really important. I think it'll take the players some time to get up to speed as well. I think we could even... part of me wants to say that I hope he doesn't try to push the players in fitness too much too soon, because we don't necessarily want players out injured, in pre-season, and then they're coming back in drips and drabs.
Perfect pre-season is no injuries.
Exactly. So it's got to be a really, really curated and careful pre-season in order to sort of ramp up the intensity as we go, so we're ready for Liverpool on day one, who are a very fit team, and they're going to have a brand new midfield. So we're going to make sure, we need to make sure that everyone's got legs, and it for me, it's being totally fit and arguably as fit as possible for the rest of the season is non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Joe, I'll get to you on the next pause, but let's keep going, because again, we still have about half to go.
Your coaching team as a collective unit. Tell us about them and how important that relationship is, and how well you complement each other as a group.
Yeah, for us it's so important, and of course that is our philosophy that we want to share here in Chelsea. I think I need to feel that you all are my staff, you all are my people, and you need to feel that I am also your colleague, and we need to work together. I think that is so important. All need to feel important, because I think today football is changing in the last few years, and I think it's important in every single area to have people with quality, with capacity to push also us and myself, and to be better. And of course, we need leaders. We don't need followers. We need leaders in every single area, and we are going to push that for every single people to bring the best and give the best for this football club.
Joe, I want to touch on that for a second. Let me just skip back a little bit to where he actually says that. Skip too far then. We need leaders, not followers. I think that's a very important thing to touch on. The only thing I slightly question with that, is whether the owners and sport directors also understand that. Because the players we're signing, in terms of with the age that they're in, that doesn't exactly feel like we're doing that. Now, character-wise, I don't know all of them yet. Enzo Fernandez absolutely fits that mold. The kid might be 22, and he might have only played one season in European football, half a season at Benfica and half a season with us, but sure has the character of a leader. But I'm not sure if that necessarily applies to everyone. But if Poch can turn them into that, brilliant. But I love the fact that he highlighted that, because it didn't see, like, obviously I'm sure there was cuts and we didn't necessarily see how much preparation there was beforehand, but Ollie touched on it earlier. Do you want the questions? No, I don't care. It's fine. I would just give you my answers, basically. So that does make it at least come across more truthfully. And him having that opinion that leaders are important. He doesn't want just follows. He wants to have that interaction. And to I take out of that, he also wants to be challenged on occasion. I'm sure there's limits, but he doesn't just want people that say yes. Like, you know, how many times was last year the word yes men thrown around, right? We don't want that. And he doesn't seem like that. I know some people try to paint him as such when we were first linked with him. I don't think Poch is that at all, personally. But it's also good if he wants everyone, and that means the players, the staff, the people around him. It's like, to me, that's a good thing. Do you agree that he emphasizes that we need leaders, not followers?
Yeah, definitely. Especially with the players, like you said, that had, you know, they were big leaders already, you know, a lot of the ones that were already going, and a lot more experienced players. And the thing is, at the moment with that, you know, we've got a lot of inexperienced players that, you know, that's something that he can maybe teach and bring to their game, you know, and, you know, obviously it gives them more of a chance now to step up and become that leader that, you know, the clubs are going to need, because it is an inexperienced club at the moment with the players we got. So it gives them the chance to step up, and it's something that he can, you know, maybe instill in them to become those sort of boys. Because at the moment, can you really name the leaders at Chelsea at the moment? You know, you've got Enzo, probably could be that, but it's only Thiago Silva, really. You know, Reece James, maybe. It's the same thing with the captaincy as well, isn't it? Who's going to be the captain next season? You know, it's Kepa. He shapes a lot, don't he? Probably think there's more shaking that. He could be right in the running mind, because obviously they have seen that before, haven't they? And we all laugh about it.
Do not underestimate married Kepa, by the way. We saw the change going from single and heartbroken Kepa to being engaged and having a girlfriend. Married Kepa is going to challenge.
He's going to be first choice, so. At the end of the day, you know, he does seem to be the one we're going to be using. So
I mean, that's how it goes.
But we definitely need leaders. Definitely, you know, you look at. We definitely do need leaders. That's, you know, like, again, when you're down in the trenches, you need those players you can depend on that are going to be there to step up and drag the rest of them through. And you know, we are selling experienced players, so we need this new generation to come through and step up. Really, they should see it as an opportunity to be a big personality at Chelsea Football Club and step into that mold. Yeah,
exactly. Ollie, Charlie, either of you want to touch on this leader thing from Poch? I think it's important.
It is important, but it's nothing that we don't know that needs to happen in the first place. You know, we know that we've lacked leadership. We know we lack leaders within the group. The most important part is very well highlighting it, and it's great. And, you know, it's nice to hear. But what are the plans to do something about it? I know we're not going to be able to bring in a load of leaders like we need in the transfer market. So we're going to have to look at, can we develop players who've already got into those leadership roles? You look at someone like Enzo Fernandez, I think, has got leadership qualities. So we don't want to burden him with too much too soon. I think Reece James has got the potential to you know, harness leadership qualities. So we can try and develop him into a leadership role as well. But you look at them, and there's not very many candidates that fill the leadership roles. You look at Thiago Silva on the pitch, and that's it, really. Maybe Kepa to a certain extent, but other than that, you're just looking at guys that
Sterling.
Sterling would need to step up again. A senior player, he would need to step up, but you know, he doesn't strike me as someone that really has leadership credentials. I could be totally wrong on that, but from on last season's evidence, I didn't see anything to me that suggested that Sterling was a leader or a candidate to be a leader. But you know, let's see. But the important thing is, obviously he's highlighted it, but what are we going to do as a club about addressing that issue? Because it's not an easy one to fix.
No, I agree. And like I say, well, in an ideal world, sign a few. But if that doesn't happen, I guess just makes Poch's job even more difficult in creating them. But hey, if he succeeds, even better, I suppose.
With followers, we need leaders in every single area, and we are going to push that club.
Do you feel that you've evolved as a coach over the past few years as well?
No, of course, I am much better. No, I think it's important experience to analyze and to have times like we had in the past to analyze everything and to be better. I think the evolution is every day and to try to be better. I think experience is a thing that you need to capitalize, because if not, experience is nothing. And I think we are in a correct way to try to add different things and tool for us to help to provide the player to be better. And of course for us, I think we are better coaching staff and I think a staff that always we love to innovate. We like to be ahead of everything, sharing and mix with the football on the past, no? Because we are responsible to keep, the values of the football. The football in the past, I think, was amazing. That is why we are in love with football. Football is a context of emotion. The emotion is so important. Cannot be only the emotion came through the fans, because that is our responsibility. Also, the player need to send the message and the emotion to the team. Need to send the emotion to the fans to the team, the staff also to the player. And I think we all move through the emotion, and that is why it's so important to have clear idea about the new technology arrive, the help, and today to provide better tools to the player. But in the same time, the smell, the eyes, the skin is so important to keep all this human, sense to in the same way than other. No?
That brings us on.
What's your reaction to that, Ollie? First of all, Deddy goes on about we need to kind of have a mix of new and we want to be innovative, but we also want to keep the kind of the basics of football in a way. But also how much he touches on emotion. It's not, I mean, I've always said not necessarily from a football style perspective, but from an emotional side perspective, sure, they're both Argentinian. But I've always quite likened Poch to Simeone in terms of that he always seems to quite come out of himself on the sideline, and in general, when it's, the bigger the game, the tighter the game, the more he does. Do you like that? Do you think that's a good thing, banking on emotions that hard? Or do you think that's, emotions, I don't know, can that also have a negative effect if you go too much on the emotional side of things?
For sure, I think there's a balance to strike for certain, just because that if you've got too much emotion, it'd be quite easy to lose your head. If you've got too little, you're not going to fight for it. So it's all about just finding the middle ground, I think. And it seems like Pochettino has the wherewithal to know where that middle ground is. And it's encouraging to hear that, actually, as well, to hear on how he's evolved as a coach. I think a lot of people have been hung up about Spurs and about PSG and about actually how he is tactically and things like that. And to hear from him himself saying that he wants to move on, he wants to, constantly improve. That is the culture that, that we need to be making here at the club, and that starts with the manager. So it, really, really encouraging stuff.
Absolutely. I keep going because I don't want to be stuck with this interview for too much longer, because we have a lot to go through after, but it's only 5 minutes.
To Stamford Bridge, a stadium that you know well as an opposition manager, yes. Of course. Talk us through the emotions that you expect to feel. What's it going to be like to you to sit in the home dugout for the very first time for that game with Liverpool? I think
it's going to be really exciting. It's close, but still far away. Because I think it's, first of all, to meet the players and start to work the tour in America. That is going to be unbelievable there, to meet all the fans, our fans there. And I think it's going to be, yes, we are going to be ready for the first game against Liverpool on Stamford Bridge. And I think it's going to be so exciting to have the first game in Premier League game in Stamford Bridge. But we are going to face a team that is really good, like Liverpool, I know very well. It's important to visualize ourselves in Stamford Bridge, and I think we know very well the stadium, and for sure with the fans we are going to create a very good atmosphere.
Emotion and passion just seems to be such a vital part of who you are as a man and as a coach. With that in mind, talk us through the relationship with the fans and the importance that relationship and that role can have for the club.
Yes, I know very well that we need to build this relationship. Our past is our past. We respect our past, and We are so proud about our past. But now it's time to build in a new club, with a new fans, with different fans that behave, of course, and are different to the other clubs. And of course, that is our responsibility also, to build a very good relationship with our new fans.
Someone should have told Potter about that one. It's our responsibility to build a very good relationship with the fans. I think that's important. I mean, Joe, how do you see that one? Do you see Poch struggling to get Chelsea fans on board, or will it be a case of most of them will be, but there's going to be a few that he will never be able to get on board?
I think it's down to results, isn't it, with stuff like that. I think the way that, you know, we react to stuff like that. But I think if we start winning stuff and the fans, you know, worry he's trying to take the team and stuff like that, and you can see the positives. So I think, yeah, take to him. You know, Benitez, when he came in, remember, everyone was against that, but in the end, he ended up winning the Europa League, and some people was like, they kind of warmed a little bit to him to a certain extent. But yeah, I think it is results based, and the thing is that it's down to, like earlier with like your emotions and stuff like that. You know, Graham Potter, you know, when, you know, even when we would score a goal or a big goal, would just stand there with his arms crossed, and this didn't show like he cared enough in many ways. You know, Poch will do that. He will, you know, roll up, and you'll be able to see that he actually cares. Something that I don't think you saw enough under Potter. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be some fans that will never take to him and then never get past the old Tottenham Hotspur thing. But I think if you know, things are positive and you can see where the team's going and we're winning, yeah, I think that they will, you know, that they'll take to him as long as the results are good.
Yeah, there you go, Charlie. What about you? Similar question. Do you think he will be able to get all Chelsea fans on board eventually? Like someone put it well here in the chat, Ricky, saying, respect to Poch, but winning is the only way to build a proper relationship. But I still think his intention to want to build that relationship is already an important start, because that's the part that never quite felt there for Potter. I'm not sure if I don't know if that's because he was from Brighton, and I don't know, Brighton is just a bit of a different vibe than London clubs and whatever. I don't know, but he felt like that was just there. The fans would just support rather than that he had to win them over. But Poch knows that. Obviously, he knows it because of where he was before, but he still seems to very much make a point of saying the right things to appease fans, which, as long as he also puts those words into action, is amazing. And I think just shows that he is aware of the situation. I think that's the important bit.
Yeah, I think he's intelligent enough to know that there will be certain sections of the fan base that aren't particularly happy with the appointment, given his Spurs links. And, you know, you're very unlikely to find a managerial appointment that gets every single person within the fan base on board with it. As long as you've got the vast majority, that's the most important thing. And then all you can do to, as I was saying earlier, all you can do to bring like the doubters on side is win and deliver success at the football club. And so that's what he's going to need to do. He'll be aware of that. But I think, having seen the disaster of last season and all the lows, like I think a lot of people will be behind him, because they're not going to want to see another season like last season. It's in everyone's interests to get behind him, give him a great reception, you know, support him. And by doing that, it's going to give us the best chance of succeeding as a football club. Because at the end of the day, there's no reason to not back the manager.
And also no benefit, most importantly.
No reason and no benefit to not back the manager. Like, I'll always back a manager, whatever I think, until there's reason not to back him. So it's in all our best interest to get behind him, because ultimately we've been so shit last season. We need everyone pulling in the same direction until there's a reason to start doubting him, or there's a genuine reason to criticize. It makes no sense from day one for people to already not be on his side. So look, of course, winning will win over those doubters, but ultimately, you know, he's just got to do his job and kind of I don't say block the fans out, but he's just got to focus on getting the results on the football pitch, and the rest will take care of itself.
Exactly. Unfortunately, Robinson, no. Caicedo and especially Hazard have most certainly not finished their medicals at Chelsea yet. But, you know,
Hazard wouldn't pass a medical these days.
No, this is a very good point. Yeah, very good point. Although, did you guys hear when Hazard said, yeah, he's still ready to be a professional? He was on holiday for 3 years anyway. I'm like, all right, yeah, that's the whole problem, mate.
Yeah, he's ready to go back to being a professional.
Hope that we can create as soon as possible this good feeling. But I know very well that we are going to create this good feeling, the signal that the team need to send to them. We need to be, a team that show the togetherness, that care about the club, care about the fans, that we are going to fight until to the end for the badge. And that is the most important thing. The fans need to feel that all the players that are going to be involved in the game, they are going to die for the club. That is the most important thing to create after this good feeling, and for sure we are going to feel proud each other.
What would you say are your objectives this season?
Football is about to win. It's a have good time. It's a good relationships, nice environment in the way that you are going to have the relationship with the people. But the most important on the end is to win, because if you win, can help in all this to develop all the things. Football is about result, and in the way that we are going to achieve, that is different. But of course, on the end, we are competitive. We want to win. We are an animals that we want to compete every week, in every game. But we need to translate before on the training ground. We need to be really, really, really tough to try to create that mentality, and then the feeling that we can beat anyone.
Finally then, Mauricio, you've spoken well about the relationship with the fans and the importance that their role can have. What would you say to Chelsea supporters watching this right now as you speak to them as their new head coach for the first time?
No, I already had some contact with fans on the street here in London. Yeah, people is really excited about the future of the club. We are so excited. Only what we can promise is to work hard and to defend this share until to the end, and never give up. And of course, we are going to try to do everything for them to feel proud and to show that we really, really care. That is what we can promise. That is going to be the consequence about our job, our act, and in the way that we are to take the decision for the best for the club.
Thank you. We wish you luck.
Thank you so much.
Really good. That's the thing. We really, really care. No more, it is what it is after getting absolutely robbed by a referee. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that is a good thing. Ollie, just final thoughts on the end of that interview. He's touching on message to the fans, but also he didn't really want to give an answer to the objectives of the season. I guess the objectives kind of depend on more incomings to some extent as well. Imagine we don't get Caicedo. That changes their objectives compared to having him. Do you know what I mean? Even if that sounds crazy, on the base of one player, their objectives change. But likelihood we're not going to get another one as good as Caicedo. We've got to find one. So that obviously plays a part. But what would you make of him not really wanting to reply to that? Understandable, or what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think it's understandable. Especially, I think he'd probably be very careful to set expectations at this stage, especially like you say, with the transfer window yet to be finished, incomings to be finished, outgoings to finish, pre-season to play. That we might see something a little bit more in the base of objectives maybe after pre-season or when the season starts a little bit, and it'll depend how our season goes as well. I think our objectives probably, while they can be at a set point at the start of the season, they're probably fluid throughout the season. They're liable to change based on context, results, injuries, whatever. So, yeah, I'm sort of, I can understand he's a bit hesitant. I would have liked to have seen him go, yeah, we're going to do something, but at the same time, I think that's just me being a bit overly emotional about it. I think he's probably right to keep his powder dry.
If he says something now and then doesn't stick to it, people will hold it against him. So
exactly, I think he's probably well aware, and in the age of social media, the second you say something, especially online, it's there forever. People will bring it up again and again and again if something to the contrary happens. So
exactly that. Charlie, any final thoughts on that interview? Like I say, the last part of it, none of us had seen before, hence why I stopped it a bit less. Still overall positive vibe from the interview, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think he's come across really well. He said the right things. He's come across in a way that, shows that he understands the club. He understands what it means to be here. He understands that, we need to do everything we can for the shirt, something that wasn't the case there last season. So, yeah, no, he said all the right things, mate. It's come across very well, and it's made you excited as a fan to see what he's got in store. But obviously, this interview is only a tiny snippet. No one's going to care about how well he speaks if he go into the season and we start losing. So
Yeah,
you know, you have to back up what you're saying with the results on the pitch. But of course, you know, if you can do both, speak well off the pitch and get the results on the pitch, that's great. But ultimately, I don't really care what he says to a certain extent, as long as we win and you know and work our way up the Premier League table. But yeah, as far as first interview goes, mate, I think he's ticked all the boxes and he's come across very well and he's got fans excited.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's July 3rd. We can't expect him to do something on the pitch yet.
No,
all we got
exactly.
it's the interview for now. So it is what it is. Joe, final thoughts on the interview, like the other boys. Do you think he came across well? Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that it was a good interview. Like Charlie said, you know, you can't really read too much into it. You know, it's just words at the end of the day. But some of the things he said, especially at the end of it, definitely get you excited. I think, you know, the die for the shirt, you know, and you know, animals and stuff like that. I think it's kind of going to show how he's going to try to get this team going and stuff like that. And I think he wants them to fight for the shirt, and that is something I think that we did lack. You know, especially after the Real Madrid game, you know, we were, you know, after that portion of the season, we were absolutely dreadful, and you could see that, you know, they weren't willing to fight for the shirt. And I remember making a video saying they should play the kids because they just didn't seem to care. So hopefully he can do that and put his words into action and get these players to actually care about playing for Chelsea Football Club, because they're lucky. You know, at the end of the day, they're playing for, you know, the biggest team or one of the biggest teams in Europe. You know, you've got to fight for that shirt, surely. You know, and it's good to hear him say stuff. And I definitely like the animal thing. You know, I'd like, you know, let's get a bit of fight back in Chelsea football. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing, you know, we've always been about, and let's hopefully you can get it back in there.
Absolutely. I'm not sure what picture frame I'm in on Charlie's background, but sure. But apparently I look like a young Pochettino, and I don't have that one. Al Nassr have launched a bid for Onana. Well, all the best to them. You know, piss off. Any which way. Big news, actually. We were talking about fitness and, you know, injuries. Chelsea have actually appointed a first-team doctor. Would you believe it? Chris Hughes, who worked under Poch before at Spurs and also used to work at Chelsea. Not exactly sure when he used to work at Chelsea. The shirt from that we can see on screen looks like that Jose's season, either before we won the league or when we won the league.
That looks like 14-15 to me, yeah.
Yeah, did he take over?
Yes, when Mourinho returned.
But then Canero was still there, so I'm a bit baffled now. So I've no idea if he's good or bad. I don't necessarily like rehiring someone that we already had, because surely there was a reason why we let them go. Unless it was them that wanted to leave, then fair play. But I just don't know. But in general, the fact that we finally hired a new first-team doctor, I'm well buzzing with. I can't even lie.
Maybe Poch wanted him because they worked together at Spurs. Maybe he was keen to get him back in.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I wonder how that came about.
It's important, I think, to have one of these, you know, first team doctors. It's also important to have, you know, a dedicated fitness coach, which is part of Poch's stuff as well. Yeah, we do. We've got some club ones as well, but, you know, fat lot of good they've been doing us as of recently. So it's, you know, it's good to have.
Poch comes with multiple, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think. Well, he's got at least one. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, definitely one. Yeah.
The difference is Potter didn't have one, and I don't think Tuchel had one either. No. So, you know, and we've been experiencing.
We had a coach. Fantastic.
Yeah. So, well, yeah, I know. So, with any luck, I mean, hopefully our injury woes will be behind us.
Yeah, hopefully. I don't want to get too hung up on each individual story because, like I say, we've been here for a hot minute already anyway. Let me just see, which story shall we talk about first? You know what? Why don't we just talk about the few things that came out as we were streaming, because two of those are rather questionable. First of all, according to the Daily Mail, Simon Jones from the Daily Mail, not quite sure on his reliability, but if Pys posts it, usually quite good. Chelsea are in shock talks to re-sign Valentino Livramento. The Blues would loan him back to Southampton next season. Now, I have all the questions in the world. All of the questions in the world. First of all, why did we sign Gusto then? But more importantly, what on earth would the benefit for Livramento be to playing the Championship next season? Like, what? That's surely... What is the whole idea of that now? I don't understand.
I thought it was going to Newcastle, because weren't like a few weeks...
What I thought.
Yeah, I read that too.
They were going to get him. They were looking to get him for around 12 million quid.
Yeah, but you know, Southampton probably said, "Go, absolutely do want 12 mil."
I think it's important to remember. I think we have a buyback this summer for Livramento.
We do, but way high, like 40 mil. I
It's
think.
high, isn't it? But like, I wonder if, like, I wonder if that's part of the reasoning. We're in the middle of hoovering up all the young talent in Europe as best we can.
Yeah,
I wonder if
but
this
we
is
just
just part of
signed
it.
Gusto, bro.
Oh,
unless
don't get
unless
me
we're
wrong. I
already
don't think
preparing
it's
for
a
Reece
smart
James to
idea
go to Real
either.
Madrid. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think it's a smart idea necessarily either, especially with
really-
Livramento's injury record. But yeah, I
It's-
don't know, more the
But
merrier.
it doesn't make any sense either, though. Like, because as you
No.
said, we've got Gusto as backup to Reece James. Where does even if Livramento, if we loan him back for a season, well, he's not getting in the team next season either, because those two are still both going to be there. So
The only logic I can see is if Reece James is to be turned into a midfielder at some point. That's the only way I see any logic in this.
but that's going to. But I mean, it doesn't really make any sense. I mean, sometimes like some of the signings don't really make sense. But this is another one that this would have made sense if we'd agreed to do it instead of getting Gusto. You could understand maybe we could have done that, but I'm struggling to make any sense of this if we are genuinely thinking about it, and if we do it, it doesn't really make sense on any level, because there's just no path for him to play at Chelsea. The whole point of him leaving in the first place was because there was no path for him to getting regular minutes in the team that he wanted. But if he comes back now or the following season, there's even less of a path. So I don't see how, from his perspective, it would make any sense either.
No. And I mean, obviously, Ricky says Reece or Livramento as a right mid and a 4-4-2. But, mate, it's Poch. We're not hiring fucking Mark Hughes here. Like, I know we're hiring a Hughes as a doctor, but not as the manager. Like, we're not playing 4-4-2, please, for the love of God. But, Joe, what do you make of this? Like, Livramento, I mean, I really rated and liked the guy, and I found it really sad when he left in the first place. But then he did his ACO, has come back from it, but maybe not quite to his full strength yet. Why? Especially if it's on the basis of our release clause. Like, and when Newcastle tried to sign him for 12 mil, I mean, that valuation is not even miles apart. It's bloody galaxies apart, that is.
To be fair, like over the years of doing this, I've been, quite a fair few that I've never really seen anything in the mail as reliable, in all fairness. And to be fair, that don't really make too much sense at all. So, it could just be them trying to get clicks. I don't know. There's no pathway. Gusto coming in. Reece, if he's fit, plays pretty much every bloody game without fail. So there's no path for him. And so I thought he was going to go to Newcastle. Obviously, that rumor was going around, and that would be more likely than him coming back to Chelsea, because I just don't see what him as a player.
I guess we just have first right, I suppose.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's because what the problem is the fact we got the option doesn't mean that we're, because for him personally as a player, surely he got to look at Chelsea and think, well, I'm not going to get in there now. It's even worse probably now than it was before, So yeah, I can't see that happening. There's just not much logic to it, either from the club sense or from the player sense, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think, Ollie, you said a couple of bits already on it, but anything more you have to say? And it's just surprising that story, really.
Not really. It just seems like a weird one, doesn't it? Like, don't know what will happen with it. We seem to be hoarding talent in terms of like the youngsters. Maybe it's part of that. Maybe the plan is, like they say, that he'll go back out on loan, and then we can develop him further. We are selling a lot of players. We have lost a lot of players, for free as well, especially in the youth academy. So maybe it's just about
another kid that we can sell for, big profit in a couple of years. I don't know.
Yeah, well, do you know what? It genuinely might be. If we buy him back for 12 mil and sell him to Newcastle in a couple of seasons for 35 or something like that, good business, isn't it? So
why would he agree to that though?
Exactly. That's the main stumbling block, I think, is like what does Livramento get out of it? Which, as far as I can tell,
he might have been happy to come back had we not signed Gusto, but we have. So
yeah, Gusto will be firmly starting ahead of him for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And another bit that's come out as we were streaming here already, again by Daily Mail, is that Chelsea are also looking at £25 million deal for Matheus Franca, Brazilian, clearly from Flamengo. No idea who he is. If this heats up, I will learn more about him and then we'll talk about him in more detail, shall we? Because right now I just have not a clue. So yeah, I will leave that at that one. But I want to bring up one that as few people in this chat have mentioned so many times to me that I was like, and not even just in my chat, on Twitter in general. That is one of those that I feel like Chelsea have literally talked this rumor into existence. According to Jacob Steinberg from The Guardian, I'm pretty sure, Chelsea could, and he's only saying could, so let's not make too big of a deal of it just yet, but Chelsea could look to add more creativity by moving for Rayan Cherki from Lyon. Good player, as I've learned more today. Very both-footed, is that an expression to use? Apparently, the preferred foot is the left foot, but wonderful on both sides. And Ashraf calls him the Algerian wizard, My mate Sammy, he'll be buzzing if we sign an Algerian, so I'm all for him. But anybody got much of an idea of him, much of an expectation of if we were to sign him? He's just another very young player who I hope we don't put too much expectation on if we were to sign him. Ollie, I feel like you know a bit about him, don't you?
Yeah,
what do you think about Jack?
I know a little bit about him. He's been very, very good for France under 21s. He's been touted as a new talent for 3 or 4 years now.
He's only 19 as well.
Yeah, so I think he first broke into the scene, I think, in I don't know if it was like Lyon's under 21s or something. Well, he was only like 16 or something. 18, might have been the under 18s, I'm not sure. But he's done. He's clearly made a name for himself. He's breaking through into the Lyon squad. He's in the France under 21 squad as well. Plays attacking mid mostly. Very two-footed. Also plays left wing a little bit and right wing as well. So maybe they're looking at his versatility. Only thing that I find a bit weird is obviously he's been described as sort of like the Leao and Hazard school of defending, which I would describe as not defending. So a lot of walking and things like that off the ball, which I know Poch probably wouldn't like. So I don't know if necessarily if the profile matches the manager. Listen, if he's willing to work and if Poch is willing to get him to run and he's willing to do the work for it, I see no reason why this couldn't work because he's an absolutely fabulous talent. Again, one for the future maybe.
There you go. Apparently, according to Sammy Mokbel, Chelsea hold an interest in Dusan Vlahovic. Still not fully sold on that. But Charlie, before you need to head off, your thoughts? Rayan Cherki, he's only 19. That is very young considering how much he's already being talked about. Very impressive beard growth as well for 19, I must say.
Better than me.
Yeah, well, hey, I mean,
that's not hard, Charlie.
I mean, it's not hard, but yeah, I mean, I mean, look, it's for me, mate. It's one of those ways. He's obviously a very talented young boy. He's he's an exciting prospect in Europe, but this is where like hypocrisy comes in it for me because so many Chelsea fans are banging on about experience, but then everyone's gassed and let's sign this guy and he's 19. Like it just like it's a bit hypocritical. Doesn't necessarily like make sense to me.
I mean, you can do both, can't you?
I mean, you can do both, but do you know what I mean, though, in terms of like where everyone's saying we must sign experienced players and then everyone's on board with us getting Rayan Cherki, who's 19. Like, what?
I guess people also have accepted the fact that we're not going to sign experienced players.
No, I know. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, it's a little bit like, it doesn't really make much sense to me. But in terms of Cherki himself, like, I've not watched loads of him. I'm sure everyone's seen that clip where he does that filthy bit of skill. Like I think he does like that pirouette spin on the ball. One of these goals for Lyon anyway. Look,
he does look a bit like a Ben Arfa region. I just hope more productive.
But you want to make sure that he doesn't go down the Ben Arfa attitude route. But look, I think he's clearly a very talented boy. Plays more as a 10, but obviously can play wide. I don't know if this is going to be an alternative to Gabri Veiga. You'd imagine now that because it looks like PSG are moving quickly on Veiga and want to try and move a deal as quickly as possible, that, we're looking like we could miss out on him. So I guess Cherki would be a good alternative. But again, like one slight concern for me, and this I might be going slightly early with this concern, is that we seem to be dilly and dathering a little bit in the market in terms of we seem to be not really focusing, unless it's like kids for the future for Project 2030. We don't seem to be focusing on any incomings other than Caicedo. And we're like, you get links with Veiga, quite a few of them. Looks like he's now going to go to PSG. I worry that if we're just spending so much time and all our focus on Caicedo, we're missing out on opportunities to get other players. Or maybe we just didn't want Veiga that seriously in the first place. But who are we going to get if Veiga goes to PSG? If we can't get Rayan Cherki, or if we piss about and we wait too long, and PSG might come in again for Cherki because they want to get, PSG need to go down a route of signing the best young players in France. You know, he fits that mold. So, you know, you go down a route where if you don't start pulling your finger out and getting a little bit of a move on, we've done very well with outgoings, but incomings, for whatever reason, I know it's only like, what, 3rd of July, but there is a slight worry for me that the longer we take over this Caicedo deal, then the more, like, you know, the more difficult we're making it for ourselves when we're looking to go and get other targets, because we can't get, if we miss out on Vega, obviously there's other players out there, but you know, you start then going down to sort of 3rd and 4th choices on the list. You never really want to be going to your 3rd and 4th choice. You want to bait.
What about Felix coming back?
No,
Not
because
going to happen though.
Felix in
anymore,
that taking
no.
position.
And
it's too expensive as well, I think, in terms of a fee and his wages. But my point is, like, you do seemingly run the risk of missing out on a number of targets. And then, as I was saying, you know, if you're suddenly top 2 choices are gone and you're shopping from your 3rd and 4th choice, that's not where it's at for me.
No, I completely agree with you on that.
I think at that point you'd rather just chuck in whatever youth we've got. Like after first choice,
Chukwuemeka
should be the youth. After that, before 3rd and 4th choice.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like I said, Chukwuemeka is there. We bought him for nearly 20 mil a year ago. It's mental.
Oh, sorry, bro. This is it from the Santi thing. CFC Daily's just retweeted it. He said that Chelsea have submitted a contract proposal to Lavia, and it also says that Liverpool have met his entourage on several occasions in recent weeks, but Southampton have not yet received any official offers. Like just now, that one there. Yeah.
Chelsea have submitted a contract proposal to Romeo Lavia. See, we need to, like you just said, Charlie, essentially, just get things going. I understand you had to do a lot of selling, but now it's July 3rd. Get me some Caicedo stuff done. Get me another midfielder. In my books, get me another striker and sell Jackson again, even though I have no problem with him, but I want Broja to be given a chance. So that's my issue with that one. And in an ideal world, get me a goalie as well. But Charlie, I know you need to head off because you're streaming on your own channel. We'll send people over when I've done. But yeah, final thoughts. Would you want Lavia though?
I'd take him for sure, because you look at the other options. Let's tempt fate and say that we do get Caicedo. Looking at the other options, I think Kone's picked up an injury, so I'm not sure if he's going to be on the move this summer. Yeah. I think Liverpool are strongly linked with Khéphren Thuram. And there's not too many others out there. As Ollie was saying, you know, once you've kind of moved away from those that are near the top of the list, you may as well go and give a Santos, a Casadei, or a Chukwuemeka more of a chance. So for me, if we can get Caicedo and Lavia, I would say that's a very good window in midfield. But ultimately, you know, if we can't get Lavia, I'm not sure there's much point looking to go and bring another midfielder in at that point, because you're so far down your list already. You might as well give someone else an opportunity.
Well, I don't know about that one, because it wasn't Lavia 3rd on the list. I mean, I guess you said anything lower than 3rd. Fair enough. So yeah, I get
yeah.
All right, mate. Well, appreciate you very much. Everybody go check out Charlie's channel. Once we're done with this stream, I'll send you over there. And once you're over there, subscribe to Charlie. Charlie, thank you very much, and we'll chat to you soon, mate.
Nah, pleasure. Thanks for having me. Take care, boys.
Cheers, mate. Joe, I'll ask you,
later,
I'm not expecting you to necessarily be the biggest expert on Lavia, but I mean, Vega's gone. I personally wasn't ever fully sold. He seems to be, versatile, sure. Can play off the right, sure. But it just seems like another mount where I'm like, but less good. Where I'm like, where do I play? You can play in a wide area when necessary. You're kind of a 10, kind of an 8. Apparently, he could also play in the double pivot if necessary, but was never fully sold on it. So I'm not particularly disappointed if he goes to PSG. If we end up getting Lavia, I'll be buzzing with that. At the same time, Lavia, as much as he's very young, if the kid is very talented. Like, then we have Lavia and Santos, who are just 1 year apart. Sure, Lavia will have had Premier League experience by then, but by now has it already. But you also have Enzo and Caicedo, who are only 21 and 22. I still don't really understand how these can ever all be in the same squad. Like, if you have 2 that are like 29 and then 2 that are 21, makes total sense to me. Because as the younger ones get into their prime, the older ones get moved on. And then you bring new younger ones in. But if they're all young, how do you develop them? Because surely then you have to sell half your squad every 2 years, because if they're all young, they will all want to start and they can't all start, right?
Yeah. the thing is with Lavia as well, you got what I take from it is the clubs that are linked with him. You know, pretty much all the top teams in the Premier League are linked with him. So he's obviously one that is clearly very talented. But what you said, yeah, you know, we are going to see. It seems we're going to have a squad of all like, you know, under 25-year-olds. You know, you can look at it with the experience thing is the bad thing, but maybe the good thing is they are all young, and we've got a new manager coming in that, you know, it's kind of like he can mold them. It's probably easier to mold as 21, 22-year-old than say a 30-year-old, you know, so it's probably that's the benefit of it, maybe the fact that he can take them from a young age and develop them from that young age. But, you know, it's that leadership thing again, isn't it? You know, it is, you know, who's going to be the ones, like I keep saying, that are going to step up? And, you know, when we're in the trenches, you know, you've got to have some experience around that. But the thing is, the experienced ones that's around, who's there? There ain't really.
Well, no,
you know, I thought with me with Declan Rice, why I kind of wanted him was because he has got that. You know, he's a bit of he is a leader. You know, and that was probably the benefit. You know, him and Caicedo, I think they're both pretty much similar in types of like quality, in my opinion. But the one thing you had on Declan Rice is that he was the leader. You know, he had that leader, you know, trait that was, I think we're gonna need at some point. You know, that's just the way it is. But yeah, Lavia, you know, Lavia, I really want it. We can get Caicedo and Lavia. I think we've had a good window there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Ollie, would you go along with that as well? Do you take it like Tony here in the chat? Because we're going for Lavia again now all of a sudden, does that mean Brighton are playing hardball? Or would you not necessarily go that far? Because I still think in an ideal world, we would like to buy both.
I don't think we were ever like not really in for him, if you know what I mean. I think we were, you know, like other clubs came and like I've entered into the race for him, but I don't think we ever kind of stopped our interest in Lavia at all. He's a phenomenal player for me. I really think he could be. His potential is almost limitless.
Yeah,
you know,
and
you know, you say fair enough, you know, in terms of having young players and stuff. Yeah, absolutely, but this is the model we're going down. So if we are going to get all the young players, we may as well get the best ones. And I think he is one of them.
There you go. I do agree, mate. I mean, I brought the next thing up on screen, which is from yesterday, from Fabrizio Romano, saying that Chelsea and Brighton are now talking about Caicedo. New contacts are going to be next week. Chelsea will go strong. They do not want a long negotiation. On the back of what Charlie said earlier in terms of faffing about a little bit, I just hope Fabrizio is right. There are certain things that we have heard which we can't share publicly, but which make us a little bit more concerned about what's happening, or we're just not sure if someone is getting just bantered. But I just get it done, man. Like for 3 weeks now, I mean, I understand, okay, until now it wasn't July, but it was July now this weekend. There's no reason why these lot that make this much money can't also talk and send the contract offer or a bid on a weekend. There's no excuse for that. You know what I mean? You don't become a billionaire by taking the weekend off. So send your bids on the weekend, please.
I think people are really jumping into this and saying like, oh, why aren't we getting it done? I think people are just a little bit impatient, to be honest. Remember Enzo? Enzo took absolutely ages to get done. You're right.
It took ages to get done, but we made a bid on like January 3rd.
But maybe this is them learning from their mistakes. You know, they didn't remember, they didn't accept our bid. So, you know, it's about not wanting, if you're going to go for a high profile midfielder who's going to be costing you around 100 million or 80 million or whatever it's going to be, you know, get it right first time and get them through the door. And I think that's what they're doing. I think Chelsea are just trying to make sure their due diligence is done. And in fairness, I think unless City come in for him, I don't think anyone else is really in for him because, you know, Arsenal are getting Rice, Man United have just bought Mount, so they're kind of priced out. Yeah, City might even, you know, put a bid in just to make us raise our offer. We never know. But
like with Arsenal, or maybe it's someone at Chelsea could like, what was it? I keep forgetting her name. You know, the ex-Arsenal player that said, oh, maybe Arteta just called Pep to put a bid in for Iso. Yeah, that's her name. I keep forgetting her name. Yeah, maybe we're going to do one of those. Just we don't have those links to City, I guess. But yeah, Joe, we spoke about Caicedo last time already. I'm not going to get your thoughts again, but just I get your point, Ollie, absolutely. But still, please get it done. Preseason starts today, tomorrow, whenever. Get it done, please.
Yeah,
soon. And I'm not saying tomorrow, but soon. Do you know what I mean? Because from the first bid, usually players aren't signed within a couple of days. From the first bid, it usually takes a while. I mean, apparently we had that £60 million bid a while back, but it's the first serious bid, we got to say. But yeah, another interesting one, which absolutely needs to be talked about, is all the goings on about a certain Mr. Pulisic yesterday. Now, it started all by Ornstein, so it doesn't really get much more reliable. That Chelsea have received a £12 million, 14 million euro bid from AC Milan for Pulisic, and Chelsea apparently value him at £25 million. So that's absolute miles apart. And then we had the absolute dagger by, like I say, Mr. Ornstein himself, that Lyon, who of course we are apparently potentially trying to sign Cherki from, have made a £21 million bid for Christian Pulisic. Now that is a massive difference in valuation, like £9 million different in bid from two clubs on the same day. I mean, AC Milan are looking like absolute mugs with that then. The only problem is I fear Pulisic would rather go to AC Milan than Lyon. I would rather go to AC Milan than Lyon if someone gave me the offer, the choice between the two. So that's my only issue with it. But what's also important to mention on this Christian Pulisic idea, oh, that was the wrong one, bloody hell, is that not only have they offered £21 million as an offer, but also that we are apparently currently negotiating a meaningful sell-on clause for Pulisic. And because it is kind of crazy, we signed Pulisic for nearly 60 million in 2019. And now we're selling him for less than 25. It's crazy. But I guess a sell-on clause would make a lot of sense in case he does ever go on to fulfill his potential a bit more than he has at Chelsea, then we get some extra cash in. Would you then accept that offer, Oli, or would you still go back to them like I would and always try to negotiate a couple mil more out of it? Because my perspective is never accept the first offer. Because why would you? Because if that's the first offer, they're definitely willing to go a bit higher. It's not deadline day.
I mean, like in terms of just his book value and everything, what he's got left on his contract, kind of his attitude and all the issues and his injuries and everything. Like, I think 21 million plus a hefty sell-on clause, hopefully take the money and run for me. I get what you're saying about negotiating a few extra mil. Yeah, if they want to do that, fine by me, as long as they accept it.
Yeah, fair enough. Joe, when you're back on screen, I will ask you as well. Would you accept that offer from Lyon? Obviously, it's always down to the player. If Pulisic says, I don't want to go to Lyon, we can accept it all we want. It's not going to happen. But we most certainly can tell Pulisic, well, we're not accepting 12 million for you either, though. So you either find a way to make Milan pay more or you go into Lyon. That's what I would tell him anyway. Where do you sit on that one?
Yeah, I think 12 million is really low. I think, potentially he's still better than that. I think that the sell-on clause is actually a really good idea, because I think we can all agree there's a player in there, and I think it's been injuries that has pretty much hampered his time at Chelsea, and quite easily he could go to his next club and be that player that we all thought he was going to be at Chelsea. So to have that sort of clause in there could benefit us down the line. 21 million at the moment. Yeah, I think I would take it. I don't think he wants to be at the club anymore. He's not. The interviews he's done since the end of the season, I've pretty much said that he likes to feel like he's wanted at the club and all this sort of bit. The needy side of the football players. And I think when a player is in that mind frame, and I don't think he's going to be a first team player. I think it is best for the club and the player to move him on, and as long as you've got that clause in there, because that's a bit of a parachute for your sort of thing. Like, if it does go really well, you can make that money back down the line. But yeah, I think 20, 21, 25, I would definitely take that. 12 from Milan is an insult. I know they're short of cash. That's the thing with Milan. They are short of cash. They got the money coming in from Tonoli, but obviously they bought Ruben Loftus-Cheek now. So, the 12 million, no, absolutely no. But, 21, 25 million, yeah, I would take that from the position that we're in at the moment, where I don't think we can give him what he wants. And then you have that sort of player around the club that is not really giving his all. So for me, yeah, I would take the 21. If we can get 25, great. But 12, absolutely not.
Yeah, no, I do agree. And obviously, like Delane, someone is saying he's not going to Lyon, and I agree with that. My only problem with Milan for Pulisic is we all know he's best on the left wing. Why would he go to another club where he's not going to play there because they still have Rafael Leao and they're not going to lose him this summer? Why would he do that to himself? What he needs right now is playing in his best position every week. So why would he go to a club where he's not going to do that? Sure, he's also going to be good as a 10. If he sees himself, I can play as a 10, and they tell him play there, sure, fair enough. But in general, maybe not necessarily Lyon, but a Lyon could be a good stepping stone for him to almost,
That's the way I see it. reignite his career. You know,
Yeah,
like
definitely.
Memphis Depay did that same thing. He moved to Manchester United early. That kind of flopped. He then went to Lyon, and then all of a sudden got his move to Barcelona. Sure, that didn't really work out because, you know, Barcelona were a big mess, and now he's at Atletico, but he's still at Atletico, one of their main attackers. So certainly still improved his career from Lyon onwards. But obviously, Pulisic maybe has slightly different aspirations. The World Cup in the US is coming up in 3 years' time. So maybe that is a side for him to consider. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that one develops. But hey, certainly Lyon made AC Milan look a bit silly here with that bid. Because how can
He's still young as well, isn't he? How old is he? How old is Pulisic?
25-ish?
So he's still very young. You know, you go and spend the season over in France, reignite your
24,
career,
yeah.
and you're still 26, 27. How old is he?
24, turns 25
You,
in September.
you know what I mean? You'd spend 1 year of your career over in France, reignite your career, and then you get your big move. You know,
yeah.
That's
And that,
definitely
I
something
think
that
that's
could
what
happen.
Chelsea are banking on as well with that sell-on clause.
Yeah, definitely.
Exactly that. One thing to maybe mention just quickly, even though I don't really want to talk about him and whatever else much more. Mount has today passed his medical at Manchester United. So yeah, the next time I'm going to be talking about him is when we play Man United, and hopefully we beat them. But yeah, otherwise, another interesting bit: we haven't solved and figured out our whole sponsorship solution. But Chelsea have today announced a new partnership with a global hospitality leader, Hilton, obviously Hilton Hotels, who become our official hotel partner. Essentially, what I think this means is when we go on away games, we will stay in Hiltons. Because pretty much every place has a Hilton hotel. So that because some people are like, yeah, but Hilton isn't exactly the best brand, like hotel brand. I'm not sure if people have ever stayed in Hiltons. Their nice rooms are nice, but the normal rooms are not that great in my books anyway.
But
they have a Hilton everywhere, so it makes sense to get.
They're not staying in the nasty rooms, are they? Like they're staying
no,
in the
not from that side of the things. For the players, it's still going to be nice, obviously, but in terms of as a partner, but. There's not, first of all, we're only playing in England this season. They're not going to have a bloody, I don't know, what are other fancy big hotel chains? I don't know. But we didn't have a partner like this before, did we? We just stayed in hotels as far as I know. So they brought an extra partner in. So I guess it's a positive from one perspective. And 3 is still on the website, but they've already added Hilton. So back to my point of I think 3 is going to stay for another season. But, I mean, Joe, much of a thought on this? I guess good that we got another sponsor, but not the most important.
No, I'd like to get the kit out of the way. I'd like to see like what the kit's going to look like and who's going to be on the kit. So I want to buy one. But other than that, I don't really have much thoughts on sponsorships and stuff like that. I just want it to be done and get it done, and then we can all buy our shirts.
Exactly. Yeah, Trivago will be fuming. We don't need to book the places anymore. We've got it all sorted with Hilton already. Poor Trivago, because they are absolute ballers. Absolutely love them. A couple of more things that I want to touch on just quickly, and one that probably neither of us are going to be particularly happy with. Again, this is from yesterday, but Fabrizio Romano said that both Andrey Onana and Mike Maignan are deemed too expensive for Chelsea. They're looking for a backup goalkeeper who can also help in rotation with Kepa. Rather than focusing too much on the detail of this, my problem is, well, we don't know what Inter asked from us for Onana, but for Manchester United, it was Fabrizio that reported Inter's asking price is between 50 million euros and 55 million euros. If we deem 50 million euros as too expensive, we're never going to get a better goalkeeper than Kepa. So we kind of need to, it depends on what the club want to do, but if we want to improve on Kepa, you can't say 50 million is too expensive. That is ridiculous. I'm sorry. We're still Chelsea, and you spent all the hundreds of millions on players that are a lot like in Mudryk, a lot less proven than Onana is. You can't, or Manuel. You can't then sit there and say 50 million is too expensive. When I read that, I was a little bit concerned. I'm like, no, don't turn into Arsenal of 10 years ago, where we don't buy a player because they're a couple million too expensive. Don't be silly now. Fair enough. If they charged 70 million, I'm like, okay, we need to balance it out. We have a lot of players to sign. I get it. But 50 million, too expensive. Do you see it that way as well, Ollie? What do you mean 50 million is too expensive? Then you're not going to get a better goalie than Kepa for less.
So, yes, on the face of it, right, that seems plainly ridiculous. Especially, because at the same time, every 5 minutes, we're going and buying another youth player for 15 to 20 million. So, to sort out one of the important positions in the squad, it seems silly. What I think maybe might be the case is that they're viewing it as too expensive this summer. or maybe, you know, in context with the other positions that we have to do and what they're prioritizing. We've seen a few times now that they're going for a striker over a keeper, you know, in terms of what the priority is. So I'm wondering if this is all in the context of this summer, you know, and this transfer window rather than just in general.
May absolutely be the case. May absolutely be the case.
Yeah, my thing on it as well is that it was quite when Poch first got linked to us. I remember what the quote was: "We're a striker and a goalkeeper away from challenging." So he's obviously
And a
seen
midfielder,
something.
I think he said.
Pardon?
And a midfielder, I think he said. But
Yeah, but I think the two main ones when I first saw it, it was goalkeeper and strikers. But obviously in that period, he's clearly seen something in Kepa. Obviously, we saw the quote earlier where he's had his team working on the data of the players in that. Maybe they've just seen something in Kepa that they feel they can work with, that he's not the bigger problem than what we got elsewhere. Because, you know, 50 million quid when you're spending 90, I think it was in the last stream, we found it was like 90 million on young players, spending 90 million on potential players for the future. You surely can spend 50 million on a goalkeeper if you feel it is a problem, especially with Lukaku there. I don't understand why Chelsea can't seem to get him into the deal, because he wants Inter and Inter want him. And if we really, really wanted Onana, surely there's a way you get him into that deal. So for me, I just look at it and I think maybe Chelsea and Pochettino, he wants to work with Kepa. And I have said in my videos that what he wants at the moment, anyway, he should get 100% back in. And if that's what he wants, and he wants to work with Kepa, you know, maybe that's what's happened. They just don't want to spend because they just don't feel like they need to.
I agree with that, but then, I mean, obviously this is Fabrizio, not the club saying it, but then don't say that too expensive. Just say we decided to stick with Kepa. But you don't tell me they're too expensive, because 50 million is not too expensive. Like in nowadays market, you can't say 50 million for a good goalie is too expensive. Like
more source
exactly, because you know, you like you said, Laurenz, you're not going to get anyone better than that. Yeah, and like there's either say that you're going to be sticking with him for reasons on the football pitch.
Also for backing Kepa, right? If you just say,
backing Kepa, newly married man, by the way.
Exactly.
Yeah. So either do that, or you know, or just go for a new keeper entirely, because otherwise you're going to be in this funny situation where, as well, Kepa's going to feel like, oh well, I'm only, you know, still number one because they thought it was too expensive to buy anyone else.
Exactly.
Well, I saw us linked with Costa for 70. I think it was 75 million euros only a week ago. I've done it in my room. So like, I don't understand how we could be linked with that. And then, but we can't pay that. So I don't know.
Probably, but
who would you have out of Maignan, Onana, and that Costa from Porto? I haven't seen much of Costa, but what I did see of him was in Qatar, and it weren't that great.
Maignan would be my choice personally.
Yeah, he'd be my choice as well. I've seen a lot more of him because I do watch a lot of Milan, and he would be mine out the three of them. But I don't think from what we're reading, it don't seem he wants to come to a non-Champions League team. But that's who if I could pick one, it would definitely be Maignan.
Yeah, no, same. I'm honestly, I can't really decide between Costa and Onana, because Costa's younger, so less experience, but Onana has done some slightly questionable things. Obviously, the whole Cameroon World Cup stuff. Obviously, I don't know the details, but in general, that didn't sound great. The whole doping thing. Obviously, I don't want to just shit on someone, and if he maybe has genuinely accidentally done it, but I'm like, how likely is that? Everyone that's doped always claims it was an accident, and it almost never was, right? So it's like,
it's an important one to keep an eye on, you know, and just in terms of sporting, maybe what they've seen. Maybe that you know, it's Chelsea being diplomatic, saying actually there are certain reasons why we're not going for these players, but for now we're just going to say that it's because they're too expensive. You know, we can't necessarily take what the club are saying at face value either.
Yeah, and this isn't even the club saying it, so
yeah, exactly. It's removed once again.
Makes a good point. Maybe the wages are also an issue, but no one has reported that we talked to them and they said no to us. And if that was the case, I feel like we would have heard about that. So I don't think we can just sit there and assume that. Also, yes, we're giving out low contracts, but highly incentivized that once we are back in Europe, there will be big contracts as far as I'm aware. So yeah, but at the same time, who knows? One more or two more things that I would like to bring up. First one being, just one more. Apparently, we could see 10 more players leave in July on permanent loans, on permanent or loans. Now, Aspi is essentially gone already, and Baba Rahman has also, his contract today was terminated. So 2 of those are already gone, but still Chalobah, Malang Sarr, Ziyech, Pulisic, Aubameyang, Casaray unknown, Hudson-Odoi, whatever way. Just one thing, Ollie. if Chalobah goes, don't we need to sign another centre back? Because I don't think
it depends.
Enough, but...
It probably depends on the system we're going to play.
Does it?
Because, if we're playing 3 at the back or 4 at the back, because at the end of the day, at the moment, we've got We've got Silva, Badiashile, Fofana, and Colwill. Will all be
so we've got 4 right now.
Essentially 4 starting centre backs, right? So you chuck Chalobah on the end of that. Cucurella can fill in at centre back in a 3. Reece fills in at centre back in a 3. There's quite a lot of cover there if you are playing a 3. If it's a 2, then you've got 1 less centre back anyway, and so it kind of works. So I wouldn't say necessarily that we would need to sell anyone, need to buy another centre back if we do sell Trev. But that's just me.
So did you think 4 centre backs is enough? Because to me, it's like if you have
I think
1
4
injury,
is certainly
you can't
enough.
rotate anymore.
I think 4 is enough. I think outside of like something happening that's extraordinarily unlucky, a bit like what happened to Arsenal last season where they ended up playing like Rob Holding at centre back. But that's pretty rare that you get like injuries to so many of your first team centre backs like in one position. So I would be inclined to say, in keeping I would personally prefer to keep Trev. I don't think there's actually a need to sell him because, like you said, having a quality backup as that 5th centre-back spot would be great. But it's also about him as well. It's about if he wants to stay and be like effectively a 5th choice centre-back, which I can't imagine he'd be too keen on.
Yeah, no, I hear it. It's just my perspective is you need also in the back 4, you need 5 centre-backs because once you have 1 injury, you can't rotate them. And I know we only play 1 game a week, I understand, but we have cup games. And do you really want to have to play Thiago Silva in the league against the League 2 team in the FA Cup? I don't. So that's why I think you need to have 5 centre backs. Sure, we will have someone from the academy who could fill in if necessary, but if Humphreys,
but we have Trev to do that anyway. So like maybe there's someone in the academy they're seeing to come through that we're not thinking of, or maybe there's some young buck 20 million from Brazil that we're going to buy or something like that to slot in straight to the team. You never know.
Hey,
but
there was a few left-footed left centre backs who were willing. I'm like, I don't understand. We have Badiashile, we have Colwill. Why would we want another left-footed centre back? I don't understand this at all. But I mean, Joe, your perspective on that? Do you think for a back 4 you need 4 or you need 5 centre backs? What do you reckon on that?
I probably would say this season I wouldn't go out and reinvest it, but obviously if we were to get rid of Chalobah next season, then you probably think about it because you've got Thiago Silva who probably will leave at the end of next season, and then that's when you probably have to reinvest. But the thing is as well with Colwill and stuff, you got Bashir, at the moment even getting them in, I think that's why Colwill wants to talk to Pochettino and see what the plan is for him, because obviously we got quite a lot of players there at the moment with 4 of them, so 5 at the moment. So if we were to lose Chalobah, I don't think we would go out and reinvest. I think it would just it only becomes a problem if the inevitable happens and we do say get injuries, and then you've got no chance to rotate. But for the cup games, you can bring in someone from the academy. I don't think that would be a thing to do this summer if we were to sell him, but next summer definitely. If obviously Thiago Silva ain't going to play another season, I'm not sure if that's happening or not.
No, I doubt it. It would be interesting to see how much Thiago Silva will play this season, to be honest. But Rahman, we touched on him. Shout out to At the Bridge Pod. That's Ollie's podcast. Link is down in the description. Check that out. I've just thought I'd bring your side up. Exactly. Chelsea have ended Abdul Babar Rahman's contract a year early, and Power hopes to sign him as a free agent. Chelsea will get some sort of add-ons or bonus payment instead if the criteria are met in 23-24, which I don't really understand. If we have terminated his contract, how we can still get any add-ons. That confuses me a little bit. But
might be some deal to do with terminating his contract, like with the player personally. Don't know.
I guess that could be the case.
I made a video bait when we signed him. Instead of doing it, I made a video bait him about how excited I was that we were signing him, and I thought he was going to be a good player because he done well and all that sort of stuff. So that didn't exactly.
He was amazing. I thought he did. Before we signed him, he had the best completion rate in the whole Bundesliga.
I made that video and I was well buzzing that we were getting.
And that's it.
Just didn't work.
I didn't hear what you said.
I was going to say great crosser of the ball, but that's it. It's mad to think
and
that he
the one
has
cross
been at the
I
club for
always
8 years and barely played at all. It's a real shame because I think at one point he really had the opportunity to be in the team and it just never happened for him.
Yeah, I remember I was at pre-season when we had pre-season in Austria on the Conte's first season. And back then, Conte told Baba Rahman in preseason, "Yeah, I'm not going to play you," and that was a year after we signed him. And and it was like, yeah, the whole thing was dead. But as Ahmed brought it up in the chat, can't find your message anymore now, Ahmed. But I thought this was quite interesting. Obviously, the whole Sevilla issues. I'm sure all of you have heard that apparently their entire squad is on the market. And I just thought I'd ask you two boys, if you don't have an answer, that's absolutely fine. Is there anybody you'd be interested in from Sevilla? My main shout would probably be their goalie, Bono.
Bono, yeah.
From the Moroccan
Is
goalkeeper.
Isco there? Is Isco there?
Yeah, he's still there. Yeah.
Yeah,
obviously at the World Cup.
I'd bring him in. I like Isco. I think he might be a good backup.
Oh no, Isco. You said no. I said Bono, bro. Isco.
Oh no, I thought.
No, you're thinking of Rakitic.
No.
Isco was
I
at
think
Sevilla.
it was.
He's right, but I think he's a free agent now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I remember. I think Isco was there.
Yeah, no, he was.
Not sure if it's
he left Madrid to join Sevilla when he did, and then he was supposed to go to Union Berlin in January or whatever, or was it last summer? And then that fell through. I think he's just a free agent now,
Yeah, maybe he is.
That's crazy. Isco a free agent. That is mental. But yeah, the goalie would be my shout. Not necessarily sure if I'd want him to play instead of Kepa or not, but
maybe
I would say he's another goalie that's about the same level, maybe a tad better. So if he's cheap, why not?
The only other person you could think of, and maybe you could see it, is someone like a Nesri or someone like that. Like just because we are slightly short in terms of like wingers, and you could. I don't know if he can play on the right, behind Madueke, but it wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah, no, there you go. Although I've just found out that Bono is 32. He looks about 25. So
yeah, he looks like a baby, doesn't he?
Sorry?
He looks like a baby, doesn't he? He's got
he does. I mean, at the same, he's also born in Canada. Who would have known that? Fair play. But yeah, I mean, to be honest, actually, if anything, him being 32 makes him even a more valid option because we've got Slonina. So why not? I'm still backing it. I'm still backing it. But yeah, otherwise, someone mentioned Rakitic. Isn't Rakitic like 36 now or 35? Like he's too old now.
Experience.
I mean, yeah, but
that's the thing. People go,
we
don't want all the young players. And then you go, okay, we'll sign someone really experienced. Everyone goes, we don't want him. I want to sign players who are from the ages of 28 to 32, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want, Ollie.
Yeah, I know, but that's not what we're doing anymore. Clearly.
No, it's not what we're doing.
Lamella there, isn't he? Someone in the chat just said Lamella.
Oh yeah,
he's
back with Pochettino. Not a bad shout.
No,
yeah, that's a good shout.
Enough Spurs.
I wouldn't take it personally, but if he did score Rabona against Spurs, I'd never forget it.
That'd be quite
amazing.
That will be quite good. I can't even lie. But yeah, I think, ladies and gentlemen, that is about all the news that there was to cover. I think we went through a lot today, including obviously Mauricio Pochettino's first interview. I'm sure we'll see more and more stuff about training starting. I really do wonder who's going to be in training from the get-go and who isn't. Obviously, the players on international duty, will they get maybe an extra week or not? I have no idea. It's going to be interesting to see. But even though we're still a good while away, 6 odd weeks away from the first Premier League game, we're only less than 2 weeks away from our first preseason game. So it's certainly heating up again already, which is exciting because the summer's already been long enough. If you ask me, the summer without football. Yeah,
I know. I'm getting like the itch to play. I'm getting the itch to see Chelsea play again. It's like we've all got Stockholm syndrome. Yeah,
literally. So it's not the World Cup or Euros on, no problem. But without that, I'm like, come on, give me something, man. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, it's about time we wrap this up. Please do check out all of my wonderful guests down in the description below. Joe's YouTube channel is linked down in the description. Just click the add to Joe Neil Seca and check out his videos. He uploads very regularly with all your transfer news, quite more regularly, arguably, than my streams nowadays. So, check out that. Of course, please do follow Ollie both on his private Instagram, private Twitter, link down in the description, Ollie J. Carpenter. And of course, his podcast, check it out on Twitter. And that will then take you to all the other podcast platforms where you can check that one out. And also, I saw, what was it, number 1 or number 2 football podcast in South Africa? That's mental.
We're doing quite well these days. We were number 1 in New Zealand, I think, a little while ago. South Korea. There's we're getting the attention from all over the world. So if you like Chelsea podcasts, listen to ours. You might like it.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't even told you once today, which is kind of my bad. But anyway, subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be massively appreciated. And hit that like button for me. That would be wonderful. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.